Hello, my friends. It's Andy over at the today's CBD and Wellness Show. Wow. I'm so excited to start the show. I skipped through my name and only called it part of the name. I'm so happy to have this show. I've been watching Dr. Lisa is what I'm going to call her because over the last several weeks, I found her. I don't know how we found each other. Somebody may have shared one of the videos with me or something like that. And then I've just been totally engrossed in her live broadcasting. And then she was on a panel the other day, and all of it has been fantastic. And so I'm excited for the show because it comes from a slightly different perspective than the doctor I interviewed the other day, Amanda Myers. Just in a few ways. And I really like to get different perspectives. That's how I think I grow, is by listening to many different people, even the people I disagree with, right? Because you want to know what the arguments are. And so I think it's important, and that's not the case here. I really enjoy everything that Dr. Lisa Koche has been saying and talking about. And so what I'm going to do is really quickly read a little bit of her bio. That way, when she comes on, we can get right into her story. Dr. Lisa Koche is triple boarded in internal medicine, bariatrics, and anti-aging and regenerative medicine. Ever since her own exposure to the medical field due to child leukemia and heart failure with chemotherapy, she has been focused on finding the cause of health issues instead of just treating the symptoms. She attended Emory Medical School and completed her internal medicine residency at USF in Tampa. She started her practice focusing on preventing cardiovascular diseases and obesity. That experience led to further training in alternative medicine, hormones, and nutrition. She is the medical director and founder of Spectra Wellness Solutions, a comprehensive clinic focusing on all aspects needed for total body healing, including the ketogenic diet, hormone replacement therapies, IV nutrition, and enhancing mitochondrial function. I almost made it through all those words. All right, so this is going to be great. You guys are going to really enjoy this. We'll be talking to Dr. Lisa in just a few minutes, right after this video. Hello, Dr. Koche. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I watched enough videos. You think I would know it for sure by now. First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
I know this morning you had a live video and you were pretty fired up, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But before we do that, I want to know a little bit more about your history as a child. Based on your bio, you found interest in the medical field really early in your life.
Absolutely. So I like to describe it as the why me story. And at the age of 15, that was the question that popped up. I was diagnosed with childhood leukemia despite feeling totally fine. I went for a camp physical and they found my hemoglobin was 7, and that began the journey. And that journey of chemo all the way through high school, and then a relapse in college on my ovary, which was really rare, that made my parents freak out, send me up to New York for therapy up at Sloan Kettering. And then I went into heart failure from the chemo. And what's really cool and interesting is even at that point, which was, a good amount of time, 25 so years ago, my uncle, who was a podiatrist, sent me supplements when my heart went into failure. And I didn't know what they were, but they were on auto refill, and they were carnitine and coenzyme Q10, which are the two biggest supplements with a ton of research, evidence-based science on support for cardiomyopathy, which is heart failure that can be related to a lot of different things. So I was very lucky. My heart rebounded back to low normal. I could run. I was able to do even like a 15K, and pursued finding the answers by going to medical school and then on to internal medicine residency, because that seemed like the broadest approach to explore the why. And what I found when I was in my residency was a lot of frustration, because I would see patients come in with differing symptoms or complaints. We would do scans or blood work, and we would have certain protocols and treatment modalities, and none of that seemed to answer their why either. So here I was, this, wide-eyed resident ready to learn everything. And I would say, why? And there were no answers. It was, this is just how we do it. So from that young age, I decided I was going to have to find the answers myself. So that's been sort of the story of the journey, where I started my practice in internal medicine, trying to prevent disease, because I figured if I couldn't always find the why, maybe I would get people on the path so that they wouldn't end up developing disease. And on that journey, I taught myself nutrition and went into a fellowship in integrative medicine and trying to prevent obesity, and found, my way through hormonal imbalances and things. And my own body, each step of the way, has almost been like a surrogate teacher, where as soon as I was meant to learn something new, something would happen to me. So I was lucky enough to get pregnant. Nobody really thought I could after 5 years of chemo and one ovary. They had to remove one from the leukemia. And after I had my daughter, I went into an immune-related issue with Hashimoto's and psoriasis and sinus problems. And I was told I would need eye surgery, along with a lot of other things. And at that point, I discovered I was exposed to some other modalities, which we can get into later if you want to, muscle testing and very out-of-the-box Eastern medicine things. And each step led to the formation of a very robust clinical practice that I have in Tampa. We have probably close to 8,000 patients, and I have a team of healers. So I have the naturopath who does kinesiology or muscle testing, which was able to find all the problems. I at that point, I had been to endocrinologists. I had done what I was supposed to do. I was highly educated. I had taught myself integrative medicine. I was eating clean, and I was still exhausted. And I was seeing patients every day who were exhausted and asking me why, and I didn't have the answer. And a friend of mine was going to close her practice because she was tired, and she heard about this guy who was doing muscle testing. And I went to go see him, and the first thing he said to me, as soon as he was done with his evaluation, which, by the way, the whole time he was doing it, I was saying, "Are you kidding me? Is it really this easy to get some other additional answers?" And I sat across the desk from him, and he looked at me and said, "How are you functioning? You must feel like awful." And I just started crying, because it was just, here we go. We've got some answers, finally. And he now works with me full time. He has 40 years of experience as a naturopath. And then I later found an upper cervical chiro who also does energy work, and then turned onto the spiritual side of healing. So I've been guided with my own body every step of the way.
Wow. That was a lot. There's so many things going through my mind. That was the fast so many things going through my mind as you were talking. So many lessons learned, and having a joy in your pain, in the sense that once you're through it, you're going to be able to take everything that you learned during that pain and then, send it out for other people to learn from your pain. And there's so much of that in your life. And then the why, asking why. I didn't ask why until I was in my late 50s, right? I was just figuring that, Kaiser Permanente was always going to take care of me. They've always been my healthcare, right? Not my wellness place, but my healthcare place. I just believed everything they said. It just so happens that my discovery of CBD and all the wellness products that I take with Viseo have really literally changed my life. That was what I needed. I needed a path to be well, right? Not just putting Band-Aids on my high blood pressure, my pre-diabetes that I had for a period of time that was well, I can't say it was cured by the CBD, because then I'll be taken off the Facebook. But the FDA will come after me. But I wish I would have asked why, like you, when I was 8, but that did not happen. The things that I'm learning from you on your lives, and I want to go into here very quickly, because I'm sure many people want to hear what you have to say about COVID-19 and everything that's going on. And I want to come back with the gut and some other stuff that I know that you have great information about. But what's the first thing when you ask why about COVID-19? What's the first thing that you want to ask why? Why did it start? Why did we want masks, and now, they told us not to, and now why are they telling us to? All these things. What thing do you want to address first in the why question?
I'll tell you how I became motivated to share on a broader scale, which was when this first started in March. I went through a little bit of fear-based thought patterning just like everybody else. And I was watching the mainstream media because that's all we had. And I was seeing, I literally was looking at it saying there's only extremes here. There's everyone in the ICU is dying and there's not enough ventilators. And then there's, oh my God, stay in your house. If you breathe on somebody, they will die. and after I got through about 24 hours of fear frequency and cleared it with my typical modalities of Epsom salts, meditation, whatever else I need to do, getting out in nature, I said, where is the expert that's leading from the middle? Because humanity is in the middle. Mm. And as I asked that, I sat there for a minute and then I said, holy, you know what? I think it's me. Because I'm an internist. I handle infectious etiology all the time. We treat viruses of all types. I am incredibly spiritual in my approach to healing with my patients. And there's so much fear mongering going on that I need to bring calm and rational approaches to this. And I also am very versed in how to improve and stabilize and biohack your immune system. So that was the first why. And the answer was, I need to get on and be more vocal. Then became many more whys as I watched. So I started.
Can I want to jump in only because I love what you just said. And I try to teach this to entrepreneurs all the time who are kind of scared of telling the world that they are a leading expert in something. They hesitate and say, well, I kind of know what I'm supposed to be doing. And, you can learn from me because I'm pretty good at what I do. No, if you are a leading expert in something, you need to tell people you're a leading expert. I'm a expert witness in criminal courts, and I have to go on the stand and they ask me, why should we listen to what you have to say? And I have to tell people that I may be one of the only people on the planet that do what I do and know what I know. And I know it through science and study and research and 35 years of training police dogs. And I love what you said. What you were saying is that it's me. I'm the person because I've done these things. And the other thing that I know about you, and that what I think you said, is that you've never stopped learning. You never know everything there is about any one topic for the most part. You're always learning. And I love that fact. So I just want to stop because I wanted to support you and in telling the world that you are, I was going to say you were the man, but that wouldn't be right.
Yeah, I can be the man. It's all good. But I'll tell you, to support and reinforce and encourage your listeners, it hasn't been always this way. I have created and supported and developed and studied for many, many years and made the excuse, oh, I'm not quite ready. I have an 8-week course, but it's not perfect yet. Or look at this person there. They've got the science faster than I do. So we all tend to go into a little bit of self-doubt. And I'm just thankful that I've done enough work on myself and gone into my authenticity and that I'm comfortable enough to be able to say that I'm the expert now. It took time. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next why.
So as I was watching, I will tell you the things that struck me. So talk about the masks, I would say first. So the debate about face masks, which is still on the table, when it first came out, as all of you may remember, it was, you definitely don't need a mask. It's going to make it worse. You're going to touch your face. You're going to be kind of recontaminating things, and don't wear them. And so that was nice because when you've fought for 10 years or more, like a lot of us, like I have, to find your voice, your authenticity, you do not want to have it muzzled up. So when they came out with later, everyone needs a mask, it became, for me, I already said why at that point, because whenever things are overrun, I didn't see the data supporting it. And so I just kind of held out. And now it's swinging back again that these masks may actually decrease. They decrease the levels of oxygen in your body, obviously, when you're breathing in a mask. So you're breathing back in your own CO2. And there's a couple of researchers that are suggesting that when you do that, you may be much more prone to trigger or activate latent viruses in your own body, along with just suppressing your immune system. So that has been a big why. To this day, we're seeing patients. We've been seeing patients through this entire pandemic They are getting screened to the building because I'm in a big building with other practitioners. And when they come up, I ask them if they want me to wear a mask, if they're more comfortable. I'm trying to just respect everybody and where they're at. But I'm telling my patients, most of them are wearing them to be respectful to me. And I'm telling them that the science isn't there and that they can take it off. And what really is getting me concerned is when you're driving around and you see people driving by themselves in their car with a mask on.
Right.
And you're seeing people working out outside. I've seen there was one report out of China that some kids had an issue. I don't know if it's true. Any of the media that's coming out now, I'm questioning, but it does make sense that when you're not getting the level of oxygenation that your body needs, these viruses don't like oxygen. There are some research studies coming out on hyperbaric oxygen and hyperoxygenating. So the more oxygen, the less potent the virus. So wearing something that's going to decrease oxygenation that doesn't have enough science supporting its ability to prevent spread, to me, was a why.
Yeah. I have to fly tomorrow to Idaho, and I know I'm going to have to wear the mask during the entire flight. And I was already not stressing necessarily. Well, maybe stressing, maybe just like going, God, I don't want to wear a mask all the way there. I mean, is it really going to keep the nasty airplane air that's in there anyway out of my lungs? And then I just didn't want to wear the mask. So I'm already stressing out about that. But I have heard similar things that you were just mentioning. It's probably from one of your lives where
I would tell you, don't stress, because then, the stress is even worse. I would just do what you need to do. Hydrate really well, because that helps. And then just make sure you're getting some nice, deep, like meditative breaths prior to getting on, and then do it, maybe go in the bathroom, take it off and do some breaths. And when you get off, just get into nature, ground yourself, get your bare feet in the earth, connect to nature where there's more oxygen, more electrons, and just breathe. The short amount of time on the plane it's going to be inconsequential, I think.
Yeah. I'm just glad I'm not flying to, the East Coast or something like that, especially New York. I'm going to fly to New York. Yeah. I want to first tell people, make sure and put your, your comments and your questions. As you can see, I pulled them up every so often. I see that one of my friends has a question. I'm going to bring that up in just 1 second because I want to ask you about something else. Also, I put the doctor's bio in the comments. It's a Dropbox link, so you just click on that and you'll be able to see it's 2 pages. I only read a small part of a paragraph. So there's a lot of other stuff on there. And you can information on how to get a hold of her and contact her and all that kind of stuff. In regard to, and I didn't get a chance to ask the doctor I had on over the weekend, but what did you have a why? Did you have a question about why when it came to the models that have been used throughout this whole thing, the ones they start off with and how they've changed and all that kind of stuff? What are your thoughts on the models that they've been using?
Well, in fairness to the people leading this, I think there was clearly a lot of unknowns. This was a new strain of virus we didn't know. And they looked at data out of China and they tried to extrapolate. So if we give the benefit of the doubt at this point, I think that what was done at the beginning, we could rationalize was for a good cause. But the issue I have and the why I have is when the numbers started to clearly not pan out. And you can look a couple of things. For me, one of the things that really triggered me was when I heard our local hospital. First, I heard, the panic, the tents are being set up. We've got a huge, trauma center that's about less than 10 minutes from my office. And so they were getting ready. Everybody's prepped and everybody is in full on panic mode. Well, once I heard that what was going on, which was units were closing down, nurses were being furloughed, doctors were losing shifts, that struck me. And I said, how is it that we are in a healthcare pandemic, something involving health, and we're crashing the medical system? So I had a huge why at that point. Once that started happening, why didn't we jump in? Why didn't we revise some of these models? Why didn't we go state by state, area by area, and reopen the economy before other crushing issues began?
Right. And that leads to, what places have been deemed essential: liquor stores, marijuana shops here in California, Costco, Walmart, but other places where, small mom and pop things are not essential. The people that really need, their 10 customers a day or 15 customers a day. It just seems that it's just really been strange in many cases. You can't walk out in the open for a period of time. We couldn't go to the beach, and you can't go to the state parks where it's wide open space in the air, but you can go to Costco and shop amongst about 100 and something people in it.
Yeah. And look, that's a huge why that everyone should be asking. And there's, demanding answers instead of just, it's okay, we'll go do it, which is what has happened collectively. But I think we're getting momentum. Whatever has gone on here, enough people are finally asking that hopefully more and more answers are going to be coming out soon.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the doctors? I don't know. I'm sure you probably did watch the 2 doctors in Northern California. And then we had a doctor, I haven't put it up yet. Somebody sent me a recording off their phone of a doctor that gave a magnificent speech in Riverside. I'm not sure if you heard him. I don't know his name, but it's I'll send it to you. It really is good. He had a lot of whys, like, why the hell are we doing? So it's so good. Why is it seems like the doctors like you and the doctors in Northern California who are right there in the middle, right? The ones actually doing the work and seeing the patients, why their YouTube channels are being, shut down.
Look, you talk about the 3 things that made me get so fired up that I was ready to step in and really speak from an authentic place of my intuition and my knowledge. That video, those doctors were so raw and authentic, and they were only quoting their own data. And they had answers, and they were calm, and the reporters were trying to kind of push them, and they weren't wavering. So when I watched them, and it's an hour-long video. It should still be up on my Facebook page too. If you scroll way down, there's my main why video, and you'll see that video right next to it. And that one I sat and watched, and I said, these are my fellow docs. These are people like that I would have gone to school with. They are honest, they're raw, and they are frankly badass. And I need to start talking, and I need to support them. And the fact that their video, in the fact that was taken off of YouTube, that is censorship, that we should all be saying why. Why can't they talk about their own data? Why and who? Who is censoring that? Who's making those decisions as to what videos can show on YouTube and what videos cannot? So that one rocked me really to the core.
There's so many things that are just get me a little bit uptight, and I'm a fairly easygoing guy. Me too. that was one of them. And then thankfully I got another link to the video probably that you have up on yours now. Again, I've hesitated putting up because I've already been shut down once before by Facebook because of something I said about CBD. So I know how these things work. I want to talk about testing, and then I'm going to probably come into the bill that you were talking about this morning. But before I do that, I want to bring up this question here. Sorry, joining late. What are the doctor's opinion that some studies are suggesting that virus is not causing pneumonia type stuff and is actually causing blood clots? Well, it's more the anti part.
Yeah, so that has been part of the journey of this virus. When we started out and we heard it was primarily an upper respiratory virus, it didn't seem to follow the trends. And that was another big aha moment for me. I don't know if you saw the doc out of the Bronx who came on pleading, and he was exhausted, a critical care doctor. Did you get to see that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so he spoke directly to my heart as well, because he was on there pleading, saying that we are treating people incorrectly. This is not a typical pneumonia, ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome, and the ventilator is killing them. And he was so adamant and so just really factual in what he believed that he ended up stepping out of the unit there and going back into the ER, refusing to put these people on vents. And remember, that was only a few short weeks after we heard about the ventilator crisis, and we're seeing ventilators everywhere. And then you're seeing docs, showing rooms filled with ventilators, and the hospitals are closing or their wards are shutting down. So that was partially because we didn't understand the virus. And the question about this being blood clots, now there are probably 25 new symptoms that are potentially going along with this virus, whether it has mutated or whether we just hadn't gotten the full picture yet. I don't know. But there is a lot of belief that it is more of a blood-related issue where the virus is attacking our red cells, and then we're having iron deposits and other things going on that can lead to clots and can lead to this ground glass appearance in the lung that basically it's filling the lung and causing the respiratory distress. It's not an exhaustion of the respiratory muscles. It's this inflammatory product that's getting in there. And really what the patients need, from what we know today, is more oxygen, not a ventilator necessarily. Now we're hearing about gut symptomatology. Before, that was when I first started this journey, and my patients were calling in and we were screening them. If you had GI symptoms, you were very unlikely to have COVID. Now we're seeing GI symptoms becoming more common. We're seeing rashes. We're hearing some classic symptoms that are sort of atypical for other infections where you can't, where patients are having loss of sense of smell or taste. So this is, it's an interesting virus. It's a novel virus, and it is also mutating rapidly. So whenever we kind of have our handle on it, it seems to shift.
Right. One thing I was thinking today, I was watching the hearings today, and I do, because I just, even though they frustrate me, I still have to watch and see what the heck is going on.
What are they saying?
During the impeachment, they at least, no matter what side they were on, they had attorneys, they had lawyers speaking on law, right? Because the career politicians who've been stuck in whatever they're doing forever are political, but they obviously brought in political lawyers. But at least you had a lawyer who understood law and that kind of stuff. One thing I was thinking, why didn't they have any doctors, MDs, asking critical questions of Dr. Fauci and the rest of the team that was on there, and economists who would ask about, how is this going to affect the economy? Instead of the political questions that were asked by, I'm not going to name any names, but they were very political, which really got us nowhere. I got no more information than I would have got out of, CNN and MSNBC, right?
Yeah. So that's why, for me, I've never been political. I don't agree with parties. I agree with my passions and different things that I want to see happen in our country, because I love our country. So my opinion is that the agenda for this, whatever it is, has nothing to do with politics. I don't think the politicians are directly involved. I kind of think they're almost being used as puppets to have us kind of get distracted. And when we're distracted, we are more easily overtaken with fear. That's my personal opinion. I don't know for sure, but I don't understand. That's why politics would ever be involved in a health pandemic. So you're absolutely right. It should be panels of doctors speaking. And what's super exciting to me right now is that we are, whether one way or another, we are binding together and we're speaking. So that is exciting to see.
And going all the way back to the beginning of our discussion about what you make of a bad situation of leukemia and heart failure, and this is what came of you, that you've chosen to take what you learned and make a positive out of it. And do you think it's possible that this will shake up the medical world enough that some of these people will become more vocal, like you and the doctors in Northern California and some of the other doctors, that they realize that we have to speak out because this has been going on for far too long?
100%. There are so many beautiful things that have happened with this pandemic. So do I think it will help docs bond together and speak? 100%. We are generally incredibly smart, very caring. We go into medicine to help humanity. And we can't sit back and watch this. So a lot of my colleagues are wanting to be more vocal, and I'm trying to help lead by giving them ways to do that. Going forward, it'll be very interesting to see what happens next. It's almost like we're watching a movie, but I do think something else super exciting, which is whatever the agenda is here, they underestimated humanity and where we're at. They also gave the gift, or this pandemic gave us the gift of a pause button. And some of this quiet, when we are not being influenced all the time by, constant background noise and traffic and meetings and soccer practice and whatever else we all typically are juggling, when we have a little extra downtime, we are going within. So people have had the opportunity to deal with some of the stuff that's been buried underneath, sit with it and release it. And when you do that, you become more closely connected to your own intuition. And when people go into their own intuition, which is more heart-based, I feel that we attract and connect to those that are in the same frequency. So that's probably how we found each other on this platform, not even understanding where we ended up finding each other doesn't matter. But those with the same love frequency, trying to spread connection, love, empathy, that we're finding each other, we're connecting, we're finding outlets to speak, and more of humanity is tapping into that as we've had some time to just be quiet.
Right. So let's go on to testing. If I hear a politician say we need more testing one more time, I'm going to scream. But I don't plan on getting tested unless I'm sick. I saw somebody in the press corps the other day say, when is everybody going to be tested in the United States? And my thought was, well, never, because there's a lot of people that aren't going to take the test. I don't see any reason to take the test unless I'm sick or have any symptoms and that kind of stuff. What are your feelings when all the talk is that we can't to go back to work unless we have enough testing?
So that leads into the bill that we talked about this morning. Yep. But I at this point, the testing is not, we're not seeing enough proof that it's even accurate. There's a lot of false positives. We still don't, as practitioners, I still don't have the ability to test people in my office. We're trying not to have obviously actively infected people come in here. So we're still having to send them to testing centers. So do we not have enough testing capacity? I would say, yes, we probably don't. Is the test adequate enough and accurate enough? Probably not. It's too soon. I think it's still being tweaked and tested and developed. And what does it all mean? You're right. What do we do with the flu? We don't test people unless they come in here sick. So we're not going around testing people. What's the reason for that? Can somebody explain the why to that one? And I don't think anyone really can. They'll claim that it's because you can be asymptomatic and you can spread it. Well, then the people that are concerned about catching it and having bad outcomes, we should be having those people social distanced until this calms down, not all of the healthy people. Right.
So let's talk about the bill and what your understandings of HR 666
yeah.
is. So hard to say that. For a Catholic, or I was raised a Catholic. I'm a recovering Catholic.
So when I heard about this, which was literally yesterday, it's very recent. It's called HR 6666, which is actually 4 sixes. I looked at that number, thought that was quite interesting. And I looked up what it meant. The bill, you can find it if you search, and we can potentially post it for your viewers. But it is the TRACE bill, which is treating, let me look back up the mnemonic. Hold on one sec. It was Treating, Reacting, and Contacting Everyone Act. So what they are proposing, and I think they've purposely left the methods out of it so far. They're proposing the ability of the government to go whenever they have a suspicion, or to just go and screen people. So if you have a cough or a fever, that they can actually send people to your home. So they can enter your home forcefully test you. You cannot refuse it. And then if you show up positive, and again, remember, there's a large chance for false positives, and potentially that chance is increased in people who have had the flu shot, which is another whole conversation. Then they have the right to go and trace all of your contacts and track them and test them. So that to me was I had to kind of calm down after I read it, because my first response was, what country do we live in? It's one thing for me not to be political, but are we in some kind of communist state that they're going to be knocking and coming into our home? And then they left it open to say what they would do with that positive test, potentially pulling people out of the home so that they don't infect people in the home. And when I tell you, one of the data points that has been super interesting about this virus is we're not seeing a lot of same household exposure turning into disease. Right. So we're already not seeing, it's very rare even. We're having really sick people, and I've had that in my practice, really sick people testing positive and the family is fine. So what does this mean? What is the reason? And then my biggest why was, why would they be doing that now? Things are getting better, right? I mean, things are getting better. We're opening back up. We have restaurants opening back up. Everything's going, we just started allowing all the elective procedures to go back in the hospital. The docs are all opening again. So why panic when things are improving? And that to me is where it gets kind of creepy. So we need to be vocal. There's petitions floating around. There are links that you can go to contact your legislator, and we need to be asking the why and demanding to have our rights be protected. Right.
There's so much going on right now in our world. So much stuff. I'm trying to pick which thing am I going to, be most vocal about, because there's so many different things that are happening right now that we have to be shocked for a whole bunch of stuff, and maybe not surprised in some other areas, but we do have to be a little bit more vocal. We have to join together. The doctors like your panel you had the other day, I thought that was great. That what was it, 6 of you and a nurse who had COVID-19. Yeah. That was a really great panel. It's on my Facebook page. I shared it on my personal page. So those of you that are friends of mine, just scroll down. You'll find that panel. There's a lot of really good information. All right. So I think I want to get away a little bit from most of the negative stuff and try to come into some things about the immune system, our gut and that kind of stuff. What are some of the things that moving forward, as we know that, I'm probably going to get COVID-19 at some point, not probably, but it can happen. Mm-hmm. Other people, it's just the way life is. We are going to go out, and some of us may get in a car accident and get really badly hurt, and some people might die, as we go back out, which hasn't happened a lot since we've gone. And so these things are going to happen. So what is it that I can do to protect myself now with my wellness, in what is one of the first things you think that we should talk about in regard to that?
I'll say first, you could be so excited and relieved because there are so many things that you can do now, actionable steps to decrease your risk of having any type of infectious etiology, let alone COVID-19 turning into some kind of an extreme type of case. So we actually live with viruses and bacteria inside of us in extremely high numbers. And they make up a lot of our microbiome, it's called, which is the fancy word for the gut mix, the bacterial and viral mix inside your gut. So how I describe leaky gut is that your colon has a huge surface area and it's in touch with the bloodstream every step along the way. And most of us, if we haven't approached or treated our gut in any way, over time have developed this condition where the lining of the intestine becomes leaky. So there's like little holes and they're microscopic. So even with a colonoscopy, they're not visible. And then what happens is food particles and chemicals that were supposed to go out with your poop just to be eliminated, they end up crossing that barrier and getting into your bloodstream. So when you have toxins and chemicals and pieces of food that were not supposed to be there, you will overload the second line of detoxification, which is the liver. And then the third line of detox, which is the skin. So a lot of times when I have patients come in with an unhealthy gut, they'll have skin issues, eczema, acne, hives, rashes. They will have signs and symptoms of a liver overload where they may not tolerate smells very well, or they get headaches easily when they're outside or exposed to toxins, or they feel like if they have a drink where they used to tolerate it, now they don't. And some people don't have the gut symptoms, but a lot of people do, of bloating, constipation, diarrhea, different alternating symptoms that can happen when you're not digesting and absorbing appropriately. So most people do have leaky gut. If you've had Advil, if you've had, again, a lot of alcohol, processed foods, antibiotics, which all of us have had, especially as a kid, if you've had a lot. And getting that healed, which is very doable, is the number one thing you can do to decrease risk of immune-related issues. Your immune system is about 80% based in your gut. So people don't realize that. And you can get very active in healing that in a couple of easy steps, which I'll list off one or two. One is a high quality probiotic. I can list the one I recommend, and we can get it on the website, that is going to work on both yeast and bad bacteria. They're like the police inside the colon. So when you have leaky gut, it's almost like the inmates are ruling the asylum and the bad guys have taken over. Right. So you want more of the good guys, which is the probiotics. So I believe everyone should be on a probiotic. There are antibiotics in our food and water, unfortunately contaminating, and they kill off the good guys. So replacing them is incredibly helpful. The other huge step, besides considering probiotics, is really just taking a look at your diet. When you have leaky gut and you're inflamed, if you eat grains, especially inflammatory ones like gluten, which is now being grown with glyphosate, which is a pesticide, Roundup, you will continue to inflame inside your gut and not heal appropriately. So we usually, to get that gut healed, need to remove some of the more inflammatory foods for a period of time while we use different types of nutraceuticals and supplements to get that lining back healed.
All right. So are there any like foods that are a probiotic? I mean, is like any like cabbage, what is it called? I forget what they call it. Like kimchi.
Kimchi's actually got a lot of great research with it. You can get kombucha, kimchi, some of the cabbage fermented products. Taking a probiotic is probably the easiest thing to do, to be honest. And once you get your gut healed, I probably only take mine maybe a few times a week, and my gut stays healthy and stable. So you just have to get through the initial process of getting it healed. And there's different ways to do that. We're coming up with an 8-week course that'll walk people through it and have all the supplements to help get the gut healed. That'll be rolling out pretty soon.
Yeah, you kind of got me. I kind of like smiled or snickered when you said Advil and then you said alcohol, because I remember as a cop, I wasn't that healthy and I was in a lot of pain. On the weekends when I wasn't working, I can't remember how many times I probably took 4 Advil with a beer.
Right.
That was just like this will supercharge it. This will make it even better. Like God, I think about all the stuff I used to do to destroy my body.
But look at now.
I thought I was bulletproof at the time, but I did wear a vest, so I did do that. What about our immune system and vitamins? Is there a regimen for vitamins?
There's a couple of heavy hitters when we look at supporting the immune system, and by now everybody's probably heard about the importance of vitamin D. Mm-hmm. So vitamin D, which comes from the sun, even here in Florida, most of my patients have very low levels if they're not supplementing. Because you have to really be outside for almost an hour a day with most of your skin exposed to hit levels where we want them, which is usually between 50 and 100 on a typical lab test for vitamin D. And I'd say most of my patients, when they first walk in the door here, are ranging from about 15 to 35. So they're way lower, even in a sunny place like Florida, than what optimal levels are. Vitamin D is not expensive. It doesn't need to be, from my website, go get it at Walgreens. That's one that it doesn't really matter where you get it. It is a fat soluble vitamin. So make sure if you take it, you're taking it with food because it's not absorbed otherwise. So some people don't realize that. It's now coming in a combo with vitamin K2, and that's also supportive of the immune system. So if you want to find a combo DK2 and take about 5,000 of D, usually it's 50 to 100 of K2. Do a minimum of one of those per day with food. During this pandemic, I've been recommending people take 2. That's probably the number one vitamin. And actually, over the past week, I think there's more studies that have come out. So I'm going to pull those and I'll speak about them on my lives with supporting vitamin D and looking at outcomes from COVID-19. Supposedly the ones with lower levels are showing a direct correlation with worse outcomes. Vitamin C, it's an easy one. Again, not expensive, easy to find. Vitamin C IV is being used in hospitals, even in New York. I know they used it in China, and they were using it to actually heal people that were not responding in the units. So taking vitamin C, which is, again, available, easy, about 1,000 milligrams with meals. Sometimes people get diarrhea, and then we have to back it off, is a good one to go ahead and make sure you're taking as well. So those are probably the top 2 immune support. There are a lot of other ones. We're talking about minerals helping the immune system, such as zinc and selenium. There's studies coming out on both of those. There are other immune boosting products. We have some natural antivirals, but I will also speak to what drives the immune cells, which is the engine inside of them. And the engine inside of all of our cells is our mitochondria. That's the word you tripped up on at the beginning.
I did not.
It's a big one. So most of us remember learning about mitochondria in high school biology. And we study it and we forget it because it's really complicated. And what's super interesting is it's not brought up in medical school. So we don't really talk about mitochondrial abnormalities. There's some very rare diseases, but that's about it. And what I have discovered on my journey of healing myself and my constant why with my patients is that a lot of the symptoms we are dealing with day to day. So forget just the immune system and preventing COVID. Brain fog, fatigue, just not being on the game, not being on your game, decreased capacity to work out, those types of symptoms, which are everywhere, more stress, less focus, those things can be attributed to the inability of the mitochondria to make enough energy. So they take electrons from the food we eat, and they take oxygen from the air we breathe, and through a very complicated set of steps, form ATP. ATP is the fuel that drives our cells. So without adequate ATP, our immune cells, along with all of our other cells, cannot work at an optimal level. So looking at hacking your immune system is always going to involve the state and number of your mitochondria. And I thought you're born with mitochondria and that's it. Like that's your lot, protect it. And if you lose them, good luck, peace be with you. So for me, I had a lot of damage to my mitochondria because that's what chemotherapy does. I had 5 years of chemo and it kills them directly. So when I found out, and this was only about 5 or 6 years ago, that you can actually make new ones, I was sold. I just said, sign me up. Let me figure out how to do this. And there are ways to trigger the production of new mitochondria along with repairing the ones that aren't doing really well.
Awesome. Very good. All right. So I want to wrap up with something with what I think is really important about what it is that you do, and maybe something that you do that's slightly different than what I hear many other doctors do. And that is that you have clearly connected your thoughts and your heart and your soul and the things you speak to yourself and speak to the universe as part of the healing process. And can you speak about how that first kind of came about and why you think it's so important to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. So when as I healed my body and through all these incredible modalities and intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet, which are two of the big things that trigger new mitochondria, and gotten my guts, straightened out, I was feeling probably about 60 or 70% better, but I wasn't all the way there. So here comes my why. And I got exposed to energy healing. And it was the university that's local actually called me because somebody had developed this piece of equipment that had color, music, and vibration. And it looked like a big tanning bed. And the people who were getting in this bed, they said their immune system was improving. They were reversing type 1 diabetes. Their pain was going away. And the university said, wow, this is super interesting. It's a little out there for us to study. Why don't you call Lisa? So I got called. Hey, we've got this piece of equipment. You want to check it out? And because I always am open, I went and checked it out. So I do a session. It was my first exposure to any kind of energy or spiritual type healing. You don't have a phone in there. You're in for an hour, in between a sleep and wake state. And the first time he opened the door, he started gagging, the guy who had built the machine, because my energy, it smelled like a medicine waste dump. This was crazy. So it was actually chemo from 20 years ago that was stuck in my energy field. And it was the first time that we had accessed my energy field. So you have a physical body, but you have this energy field that can be measured coming off of you. And it holds on to thought, traumas, toxins. And when you're ready to clear it, it doesn't just go immediately back out into the air. Your physical body actually has to process it unless you're doing some pretty aggressive energy work. And that's what this machine was doing. So that opened my mind to, oh my goodness, this physical body is not it. There is a whole lot more going on. So I started studying vibrational medicine, light healing, energy healing, got exposed to some healers, a blind friend of mine who practiced something called Jinshin Jitsu, where it's like acupuncture without the needles. And she touches 2 points. And because she's gifted, she can see the energy flows and she can reboot them. And so it was that journey, one step to the next, of opening my mind to what else could be going on, that led me to the spiritual connection. And I think I am going to be one of the people, we talk about an expert, to try to find the actual scientific place where this connects, so that it's not just woo-woo, believe in yourself and you'll heal kind of talk, that it's actually evidence-based science. And there's 2 places in the body where I think these thought patterns and spiritual beliefs and energy healing are the most prevalent. And one of them is our friend, the mitochondria, because mitochondria used to be their own bacteria. They can sense things. So if you think about it, if it was kind of hanging out doing its own thing, it can sense light. It can sense like if it should be scared or not. So emotions, thought patterns, we don't know exactly where they're acting at the mitochondrial level, but they seem to be impacting it. The other is our fascia, which is a huge connective tissue that goes all the way through our body. And most people know about plantar fasciitis. That's where you hear about fascia. In medical school, it's like a saran wrap around the organs. You just cut through it to get to the cool part. Mm-hmm. And now we're starting to understand that the fascia is actually a very mobile, exciting system. And it is an irrigation system, provides water. It carries light. And it may actually be the organ, if we want to call it that is providing the connection to consciousness and energy frequencies that are allowing us to connect to others and bring it into our body. So a lot of really fascinating, cutting edge things that we are just now trying to understand. And if you look, have you seen Emoto's water studies before?
No.
Okay, so I would love to have, that's one of the easiest ways to understand what I'm talking about. If you look up Masaru Emoto, Emoto, he's a Japanese researcher who studied water. And what he did is he blows up water and it looks like a crystal, which is really cool. And he talked to the water and he said, I love you. Or he said, I hate you.
I have seen that.
Okay. The crystal will distort with negative things. So you play like heavy metal screeching and it looks awful and discordant. You play Beethoven and it is gorgeous. So this water and understanding that it can respond to words and thoughts. And if this water is being carried through our fascia, it is having an impact on our body. So for me, when I started paying attention to that, started doing energy healing, started really checking in and teaching myself how to shift thoughts into more self-love, that's when I really continued the healing journey even faster than what I had done before.
Wow. All right. So I am sometimes known for asking cringy questions, and I hope you don't mind. But Andy, as a police officer, is a little bit different than Andy now. But if you would have brought all this up, if I would have come to you as a doctor and you now go into this guy talking to water, you know, the healing of positive thoughts and all this kind of stuff, your credibility with me, right, at that moment would have dropped down to the floor, and I probably would not have returned. Was there any time that you thought, wow, I can't tell people this because I'm going to lose patience?
I love this question. So I love this question. So I have a mathematician for a father, and I have a tax attorney husband. So they're very linear, and forget about the spiritual stuff. Just when I started talking about vitamins and selling vitamins in my office and doing muscle testing, my dad, especially both of them, what are you doing? No one's going to come back. You're messing your credibility. You went to this incredible medical school. And I just sat there and said, if it worked on me, I'm not going to send them to GNC to go get their vitamins. So I appreciate your concern, but the right people are going to come. And they're gonna come and they're gonna be excited that I have these vitamins. So fast forward to the spiritual stuff. I'm very attuned to my intuition. So a lot of my healing happens when I get in the room, and I can tell when patients are ready to hear some of this kind of extreme thought patterns over on the spiritual side versus not. And I always meet people where they're at. So if I feel like they just need baby steps, I'll have them go on YouTube and type in guided meditation, and I give them, a very basic, the honest guys, they're my favorite ones. And I just tell them to go and go listen to it for 10 minutes a day. And that's it. And then a lot of times they'll come back and they'll be asking for more. So I'll just inch them along. And the truth is, if they don't come back after I bring up, and again, I don't go into extremes of what I just told you, I will meet people where they are. So if I just bring up, hey, there's electrons coming from the earth. If you put your feet barefoot in the earth, you're going to feel better. If they don't want to do that, they don't respond, then we don't go there. We'll stick with, how can I refill your blood pressure meds today? and maybe you need a stress test. I blend traditional with all the integrative. And then next time they may come back and ask me. And if they don't come back because they don't want to deal, and I do see that too, I may pique interest and I may ask very probing questions, I guess, like about their lives and, where do they think, why they came down with these problems. Then if they don't want to share, they either don't come back for a while or they don't come back at all. And I'm okay with that because I'm not the right healer for everybody.
Right. Oh, I went out of focus over there. We are. There's my buddy. Did you hear this is Bo. This is my youngest son. He's 6.
Aww, buddy.
But I had to give him a hug because they've all been hovering. I don't know if you've noticed, but
I saw the coloring in the background.
They've actually been pretty good for an almost hour-long thing. They just now set off the alarm. What? You set off the alarm in the middle of my broadcast? What? Package. Oh, okay. You got a package? Somebody drop off a package.
Okay, maybe it'll be something really good.
All right. Well, is there anything that we did not talk about that you really wanted to speak to today? I think we covered a lot of stuff.
I think we covered plenty.
Yeah. What's funny is the numbers really didn't change that much. They stayed up in the higher numbers and didn't drop down. I think people were so busy watching that they weren't even typing that many comments. For me, to the audience, if you're watching the replay, please type in the comments where you are watching from, what your name is. The comments helps generate and move this video to other places where some people might not have seen it. So I really appreciate the comments and the emotions, if you could put them on there. I've also put two things on there, and that is Dr. Lisa's bio. You can click on that and you can get a copy of it. Has all of her information in there. I also put the bill that she brought up, 6666. I think I left off a 6 the first time. 4 6s because I got into the Catholic thing and wrote up on 3. And the other thing I wanted to tell you is that I think I should try to connect you and Dr. Meyer, who is a good friend of mine. She's in the mastermind group I run. She is from Texas, but she's been working in Tampa at emergency room in Tampa with COVID-19 patients. But you guys are very close in many of the things that you talked about in regard to many stuff. That was really good.
Yeah, send her my way. That sounds great. And if anybody wants, I just put up a free ebook on my website about mitochondrial biohacking. So it's free. So go check out the website, which should be hopefully the bio somewhere.
All right, I got to get to this question. I'm so sorry. You were almost free of me. But April asked me this yesterday on another post that I had, and she was, and he suggested for me to pose this question to you, Dr. Koche. I suspect that my entire household had coronavirus in mid-March. Is there any benefit to getting tested months after the fact?
I would, but it's going to be for antibodies, not for the virus. So yes, go ahead and see if the antibodies show up, because then you can feel a little bit reassured that maybe you have some level of protection, but not. I've had a lot of patients come in with classic symptoms and their antibodies are still negative. So just go see. That it should be covered. Quest is doing it. If it's not covered, I think there's a $55 charge, so it's not too bad to get the antibody testing.
All right, looks like you got a shout out here from Emily Gale.
Yeah,
such an amazing group of healers.
Thank you.
Awesome. I may have to move to Tampa just to get closer to your location over there.
Yeah,
well, let's stay connected. I would love to stay connected with you because I love everything that you're doing. And if there's anything I can do to help you and push forward your message and maybe do another interview if you want somehow.
That'd be great. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. I appreciate it very much. All right, guys, this will be it. I'll talk to you later. And thanks again, Dr. Koche. We really do appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.